Hey, how's it going? This is James P. White from 95.7 Cruise FM, The Locker Room, the James P. White Experience, and welcome to the Jedi Jimmy podcast. This is episode 9. I'm doing a complete overview of one of the most badass TV series of all time, The Book of Boba Fett. I'm doing a total breakdown of what I learned, what I'm going to predict, and shit is going to get weird. Here we go. So, the whole series is based on Boba Fett fighting to be the daimyo of Mos Espa. And we found out exactly how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit. That was actually pretty cool when you see the stormtrooper in there and he kind of takes a little bit of air out of his mask and burns his way out of the Sarlacc. Then you actually see the what are they called? The Jawas steal his armor, and he doesn't even remember them stealing his armor. That is kind of a weird twist. Then he's saved by the Tusken Raiders, and, they kind of were testing him, and he fought his way through and became part of the tribe. Then the tribe was all slaughtered. I was kind of hoping they were going to make it through to the end, but no, they were dead. But the reason they were slaughtered is because of the fact that Boba Fett helped them learn how to fight the pikey train that was coming through, that were killing off a bunch of people to protect their spice trade. And then they stopped them, said, hey, we're going to charge you a toll. And then they massacred the whole lot of them. The crazy thing about that is they actually blamed I think it's called the Nikito bike gang, who Boba Fett beat up earlier to steal their bikes. They blamed him, and they even put the symbols of the bike gang on what was left of the tents. We learned that it was actually the Pikes that did it towards the end of the series. That was a huge twist. Now, we also see how Boba Fett saves Fennec Shand and then actually turns her into part robot with the mecha dealers, and she helps him free back Slave One, which, if you don't know where it was actually in Jabba's palace, because he flew there with Slave One in the Return of the Jedi when he brought Han Solo to Boba Fett after he was frozen in carbonite during Empire Strikes Back. So then we jump back into the reality times in which he recruits the bikers. They were a bunch of guys a group. They were kind of like on these fancy speeder bikes that were all chrome and stuff like that. They were kind of like Vespas. And they're like, we need to eat. We need to make money. He hired them to be part of his group. And that's pretty cool. Actually, they come to really help in the final battle, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So then the two Gamorreans come in who worked for for Jabba the Hutt in the past, but they also worked for, I can't think of his name, but don't worry about it. So they start working for him, the Gamorreans. Then Black K jumps in and tries to kill Boba Fett. Boba Fett captures him, and then Jabba the Hutt's cousins actually jump in, and they were actually trying to fight Boba Fett for running the Mos Espa, because they were cousins they wanted control. But with the failed assassination attempt by Black K, they gave up and gave Boba Fett a Rancor as the daimyo of the area. Rancor. It was a younger Rancor, but it introduced us to Danny Trejo, who was the Rancor. They called him the Rancor handler, but man, I wish he had more of a spot in this series. He might be in season 2 a little bit more to help Boba Fett learn how to control the Rancor better, but still pretty cool. I need to see him again. Now, Black K, who is now working for Boba Fett, that part was really cool. And then we see a couple of episodes where with Luke and Baby Yoda, as a lot of people call him, but his name is Grogu, where you see them trying to work on Grogu's Jedi skills, like learning the Force and all that kind of stuff. I liked that part, and it gets even better from here. Now, what do we see? We see Mando. Mando's back, baby. What could go wrong? So Mando has the dark saber. Not only is he still a bounty hunter, but the one guy showed him attitude, cut him clean in half, through a table. One of the best things I've ever seen in Star Wars lightsaber history. No, actually, when Mace took off Jango Fett's head, that was actually kind of cool too. But that was awesome. And then we learn a little bit more of the history of Mandalore. And then the Mando, otherly known as Din Djarin, gets kicked out of the it's called the Children of the Watch. They're like an old school version of the Mandalorian culture. He gets kicked out, but before he does, he gets the armorer to make chainmail armor out of Beskar, which they melted down the Beskar spear, because the Beskar is in the Mandalorian culture is only supposed to be used for armor, not for weapons. Because if you make a weapon out of Beskar, it can be used to kill a Mandalorian, and that's not good. You're supposed to be protecting the whole, like all of Mandalore, not killing each other. Now, so he's been kicked out of the Children of the Watch. So what does he do? He goes to try to find Grogu and Luke, because he wants to see Grogu again. He's kind of feeling there's a lot of attachment there, but we see a lot of parallels between where Grogu is and Yoda, probably during his early years. You got to remember that during the Return of the Jedi, when Yoda did pass away, he was 900 years old. By this point in Grogu's life, he was about 50. So, probably adolescence or early adolescence. So, we learn a lot about that. And I feel that this series had so many side trails in so many different ways. It's going to link to the other series that are going forward. Because not only do we see Luke and Grogu, but we see Ahsoka, who is actually on this unnamed planet where they're training. And so there might be an appearance of Luke Skywalker in the Ahsoka series, But again, that's one of my predictions later on. Now, so Din Djarin gave, otherly known as the Mando, gave Ahsoka the chainmail armor to Luke to give to Grogu. So Luke actually felt kind of the conflict with Grogu, with the fact that there was a lot of attachment between, the little guy and Mando, that he gave him a choice. Either you stay with me, you learn to be a Jedi, and he offered him Yoda's lightsaber, or you go with Mando. Who does Grogu pick? But Mando. Again, final episode. So, now we get into a little bit more dealing with the war and preparing for the war between Boba Fett and the Pikes. The Pikes want total control over Mos Espa and actually all of Tatooine, because they actually killed a marshal who lives in Mos Espa, which is halfway on the other side of the planet. But he shoots him. I don't know if he's really dead at this point, but I'll touch on that in a few seconds. So that happens, and now it's Boba Fett and his gang against the Pikes. The Pikes outnumber them. They have all the other families of Mos Espa who agreed not to turn on Boba, who also turned on Boba. They all get wiped out. They're all a bunch of dickwads. So they kind of deserved it. Now the fight starts. Boba Fett, what does he do? He learns how to ride the Rancor. That's like a dude wearing an armor on King Kong. It was awesome. They were fighting about against these really massive, they were basically destroyer droids. They were called Scorpionic droids. They were about 4 times the size of destroyer droids with shields. But the Rancor messed them up 6 ways to Sunday. So cool. Now, as I said before, Cad Bane shoots Cobb Vanth and his minion, or deputy if you want to call him that. But the fight between between Boba Fett and Cad Bane was awesome. The only thing that really saved Boba, though, was the fact that he had the Beskar armor. But, see, Cad Bane was more of a seasoned assassin, but he was kind of taken out with the Gadfly stick, which Boba Fett got from the Sand People. Now, this was such an intense season. I loved every second of it. I know there's going to be a season 2 of Boba Fett. And at the end of season 1, we find Cobb Vanth, so the Marshal from Mos Pelgo, or Freetown, as they changed their name to. He was in Boba Fett's Bacta tank, healing at the end of the episode. I loved this entire series. There was a lot of references to a lot of the old Star Wars world, a lot of things that most, as I like to say, muggles didn't catch on to, like references to Beggar's Canyon, which was referenced to in episode 4 with him and Wedge talking about it while preparing for the attack of the Death Star. But Beggar's Canyon was also one of the in the pod race of episode 1. That's where he actually kind of flew through. That's the track that they used for the pod races. Now, also the Tashi Station was made reference to in episode 4 because Luke wanted to go there. It was kind of a local hangout where you could, I think it was like play video games and have a couple of drinks with your friends. And that was brought back into the Book of Boba Fett as well. I really love that. Now, there's a few predictions I have going forward. I touched on them for a second. There will be a season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. 100% there will be. Because now he's Daimyo, and they're bringing back Cobb Vanth. So, the Marshal, I love that. In season 3 of The Mandalorian, we are going to see the one and only Grogu and Mando together. And I believe they are going to be involved in the... What's the best way to explain it? The freeing of Mandalore. So not only are they going to involve themselves with the other Mandalorians, but I have a feeling that eventually, with the fact that Grogu has all these Jedi powers, he might become the next Jedi Mandalorian. He might be able to wield that dark saber better than anybody else. I look forward to seeing that happen. That is going to happen. I feel it all the way into my toes. Now, with the fact that that Ahsoka did make an appearance with Luke, training on the planet where he has his first Jedi Academy, he might make an appearance in the upcoming Ahsoka series. I hope to see that. Now, there's going to be so much stuff. I'm so excited. Now, I've done this every episode. I'm doing it again because I just love it. Quotes from this series. Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect. Fate sometimes steps in to rescue the wretched. Episode 3. Take it from an ex-bounty hunter. Don't work for scug holes. You could only go so far without a tribe. In this series, in the final episode, he had his tribe, baby. That showed it all, and he won the day. Now, persistence without insight will lead to the same outcome. And I loved this one from Luke to Grogu. Get up. Always get up. Now, there was 2 quotes I loved in episode 7, but I think my favorite of the 2 has to be, "We will both die in the name of honor." And this was Mando talking to Boba Fett when they were preparing for the war against the Pikes. Now, my next podcast series will be a breakdown of all 7 lightsaber forms. Not only am I going to explain what the purpose of each 7 forms are, but the main Jedi that employed them for the majority of their use of the lightsaber, but I'm also going to demonstrate some of the techniques. That's going to come up soon. Now, I do have to give a huge thank to my sponsors. First of all, the Dean Blondell Network, which you can find on deanblondell.com. You can find my podcast and many others. Not only can you find the Dean Blondell podcast, but my buddy, Fire for Effect Productions, Army Chris, who helps me set this up. That's also you can find on the network. And coming up soon, actually in about a week, is the Pink Shirt Day discussion that I have with a number of great people. That you can also find on the network. And I do have to thank Army Chris. He films all these. He helps me edit them. This is his setup here. And he has the Fire for Effect podcast. And he's called the Fire for Effect Productions. I need to thank him. I look so forward to teaching you how to use a lightsaber in my next season coming up. May the Force be with you always. See you then, baby.